Us now, Israeli government spokesperson Ilan Levy. Thank you so much for joining. So earlier today, I spoke with the IDF's Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, and he told me last night that Israeli officials came to the conclusion the IDF was not responsible, that the final determination and evidence was presented several hours after the blast. And one of the questions I had is, doesn't the IDF know where it is aiming its munitions and where they're landing? Why did it take that long to definitively determine what had happened?
Thank you for having me on the show, Jake. Indeed, as time moves on, it's clear that what happened last night is not a murder mystery, but really an open shut case. And the evidence really is incontrovertible that it was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket that misfired from inside the Gaza Strip and landed in the parking lot of that hospital. It wasn't an Israeli airstrike. The hospital was not destroyed, as the initial claims came out from Hamas yesterday, and as many in the international media parroted immediately. But look, when such an allegation is made, the IDF does exactly what you would expect of a professional army of a democratic state, which is that the spokesperson's office needs to check the allegations, needs to bring all the evidence instead of just issuing a blanket denial. And the only reason that the international media has been trapped in this he said, she said over the last 24 hours is that Hamas, that's what the Gaza Health Ministry is. It's Hamas, which is as bad as ISIS, if not worse, made an outrageous allegation immediately. And Israel said, look, we need a few hours in order to issue a preliminary investigation. And that evidence now is overwhelming, that what took place yesterday was a horrific war crime perpetrated by Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They were trying to fire a rocket at our people to kill us, and they ended up murdering their own.
Prime Minister's office confirmed with CNN that Israel will allow humanitarian aid into Gaza from Egypt, but it will not allow supplies into Gaza from Israel's territory until Hamas releases all hostages. And that effectively punishes all Palestinians, even those wounded and sick and desperate, because of Hamas, even though your government acknowledges that Palestinians in many cases are victims of Hamas. Why not let supplies in to help the people that are suffering because of Hamas?
At the moment, Israel is in a state of war with Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. It's a war that we were dragged into as a result of the October 7th massacre and the gruesome brutalities that are really only just beginning to come to light. Now, it's important to understand what happened at Israel's crossings. The Erez crossing, for example, through which so many Palestinian workers went to work in Israel every day, was completely destroyed by the Hamas death squads when they invaded on the morning of the 7th of October. The village of Kerem Shalom as well was another of the villages near the crossing where they went door to door, massacring, torturing, and murdering people. And Israel has made very clear we are at war with Hamas. We therefore will not allow our crossings to be used in order to conduct trade and business as usual, while they're holding 200 of our people, men, women, children, some babies, elderly people, in captivity. We have no objection to Egypt allowing its border to be used in order to deliver humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. And we want humanitarian aid to reach the people of Gaza in the safe zone in the south. For the people who have heeded Israel's warning to temporarily evacuate from the north of Gaza to areas where it will be safer, away from intense fighting. And we have a simple demand: that we make sure that the aid actually reach the people of Gaza and that it not be stolen and requisitioned by Hamas. Just as we saw 2 days ago when the United Nations admitted that Hamas had stolen fuel and medicine that was intended for humanitarian purposes inside the Gaza Strip. They then quickly deleted that tweet, but Hamas stole 24,000 liters of fuel donated with taxpayer dollars, taxpayer euros, taxpayer pounds. And we insist that if aid is going to go into the Gaza Strip, it should reach the people it is supposed to reach and not reach the Hamas war and death machine as it continues to perpetrate atrocities and aim rockets at our cities.
So as of this hour right now, the Rafah crossing on Egypt's border is still not open. What's your understanding as to why aid is not moving into Gaza? We've heard conflicting information. On Sunday, Jake Sullivan told me, the national security advisor for the U.S., told me that there had been an agreement with Israel and Egypt to let Palestinian Americans leave Gaza, but the Hamas was stopping it. There have been all sorts of pointing of fingers. There was a time that Egypt was blaming Israel. What's going on in terms of aid getting in from Egypt and Palestinian Americans getting out of Gaza?
Exactly. That's important to understand just as a basic point of geography, that the border between Egypt and Gaza is controlled by the Arab Republic of Egypt and Hamas terror authorities inside the Gaza Strip. It is not a border that Israel controls. And indeed, just a few days ago, the arrangements were in place for foreign nationals to be able to leave the Gaza Strip. And it was Hamas that stopped them, effectively turning those foreign nationals into hostages, in addition to the 200 Israeli hostages that they've been holding there since the October 7th massacre. I repeat, this is a war that Israel is fighting against Hamas, not against Gaza, not against the people of Gaza. We don't want to see more civilian casualties. We don't want to see any suffering. And that's why Israel is taking every necessary step to try to minimize civilian casualties, warning people to get out of the way, indicating we have no objection to humanitarian aid moving through Egypt in order to reach the people in need. And we hope that in the days to come, and we know that the fighting is going to be difficult and is going to be hard, but we're only just beginning in our efforts to destroy the Hamas machine. We hope that we're going to be able to target the Hamas terror infrastructure inside the Gaza Strip with minimal harm to civilians who, you know, despite the scenes of jubilation that we saw on the streets of Gaza when Hamas returned with Israeli hostages returning from the massacre, and despite those images that really nauseated everyone in Israel, we don't want civilians to be hurt, and Israel has no objection to the humanitarian aid reaching them through Egypt.
All right. Eylon Levy, thank you.